In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The beginning, as described in many holy texts, give the depiction of nothingness, void of space, time, or shape. With our limited ability in these dimensions, we can only personify this void as water. It was then that the Word made manifest in its supreme intellect and maturity the following incantation: let there be light. And there was light. Soon there were other collections of words and more manifestations, one of which being the forming of the earth to separate the waters. And because we share all of the elements of the earth, we too can call ourselves earth. Greetings and welcome to another footprint planted in the ground that is our foundation, the building and architecture of our house, of our sacred space, of our holy temple. This is the build. I will soon bring in Brother Eli, as I believe I, in my folly, had failed to invite said brother. My deepest apologies for that. But I assure you that he is on the way. And very soon he will accompany us and bring forth our opening announcements. But even before we do, let us take but a moment or two to appreciate life, to appreciate your life, to appreciate the lives of people that you care about, even if more than yourself. May this be a moment of silence, not of mourning, but of rising. For there is a difference. 10 seconds. I'll hold the time. Thank you. I now bring forth Brother Eli as he will be added to the stream, and he will bring forth our announcements. Blessings.
Blessings, everyone. And you may hear a little breezy sound in the background. A little heater. Blessings. The words we are expressing freely are not meant to offend anyone. Our words are not meant to compete with anyone else's wisdom. Your wisdom and understanding is yours alone. We are choosing to remain consecrated while being in the furnace of affliction, the burning bush. And as we always know that, conquering ignorance is essential. Nobody is born wise. A person has to make serious efforts to develop the qualities needed to be able to speak and achieve Mayat without falling into the twin traps of vanity and greed. Those of us who exist in a burning bush, we love a vigilant heart, a plain tongue, satisfying God, because our existence rests on knowledge and not on belief. And as we already know, once again, in the ancient Kemetic book of two ways, it says that the causes of wrongdoing are ignorance and immaturity. Blessings.
Thank you, Brother Eli. And let me say this. As I heard the whisper of your certain electronics, your heater, I too was warmed. A little bit of a segue here. I am one to actually believe that against the text that speaks of hell being of burning, of eternal damnation, of fire and brimstone, I am starting to believe that hell is cold. But I digress. Today, I want to talk about the concept of reflection. As you know, in a previous build, we spoke about absorption and the days in the life of those who are in certain positions to absorb even against their own intellect or what they were taught their position was. And the bottom line is that they are there to absorb the pains, the afflictions, the illnesses of the people around them so that they may have less pain, may have less illness. That it gets taken into us, the vessels. And then, in our knowledge of dispersing of said pain and illness, we blow up the bomb in a safe place. We disarm the weapon in a safe place. Today, I want to talk about reflection. But before I do that, being that we are evidence based, we must present the definition of said word, reflection. Reflection is the throwing back of a body or surface of light, heat, or sound without absorbing it. It is also thought of as serious thought or consideration. In mathematics, the conceptual operation of inverting a system or event with respect to a plane, each element being transferred perpendicularly through the plane to a point the same distance the other side of it. An amount of light, heat, or sound that is reflected by a body or surface, an image seen in a mirror or shiny surface, a thing that is a consequence of or arises from something else. There is a lot to unpack there. But of course, we have only but a limited time. So we will focus on one that we can break down the most. There is a dynamic between the emotional reflection of our past and the almost deflection of opposing forces, not allowing the absorption of outside things to enter within us. There are many ways to do this, both spiritually and otherwise. One of those is through a philosophy and certain procedures and certain titles that determine us as being well. We call this wellness. And the definition of well has many different pockets in order to fit many concepts. Well is in a good or satisfactory way, in a thorough manner, in good health, free or recovered from illness, sensible, advisable. In the oil industry, it is thought of as a shaft sunk into the ground to obtain water, oil, or gas. In architecture, it is thought of as an enclosed space in the middle of a building, giving room for stairs or an elevator, or to allow light or ventilation. And in the law of physics, it is simply defined as a region of minimal potential. I would like, before I continue, to hear Brother Eli and his iterations and interpretations of the definitions that were shared and any, if any, dots that can be connected from his own experience and personal reflections on his wellness.
My apologies, brother. I was just trying to get all my facts together with concerning the concept of reflecting, and I just may need a few more minutes of getting these facts together because, in all honesty, I'm getting near to that 50 mark, and my reflections are being more deeper because I have to make some decisions. And when someone such as myself makes certain decisions, there's pretty much no turning back. So I'm still in the concept because I had this conversation with the two young gentlemen and some other people this week with the concept of reflecting when it concerns to well-being and health and healing, specifically to Blacks or African Americans or North American Negroes. And I would like for us to have a, honest dialogue on the evidence I'm about to present. And
Yes.
I'm into reiteration because all existence repeats itself and is consistent. So I'm trying to be one with it, and it's extremely tough because there are layers, you have unseen layers that you have to go through, because there are unseen watchers that will push, the sperm cell into the egg. So keep going,
Mm,
brother Michael, and I just, give me a few more minutes. Yes, sir. Thank you, brother.
absolutely. Absolutely. So I, in some people would say, a different suit, a different hat that was worn. Some might even say a former life, was a high health advocate and a person who defined wellness in certain ways. And wellness for me back then meant something totally different than wellness for me means now. Back then, wellness for me meant that you were symmetrical in your physical being, that you were scholarly in your mental being, that you are willing to take all sides and all angles and be able to look at them objectively, and that you are able to articulate these aims, these opinions, these facts that were collected in an eloquent manner, that you were without disruption in your body, whether it was elective via drug use, narcotics of any kind, which were included but did not limit it to certain foods that were eaten, certain environments that you would reside in, and certain elements that you would subject your physical frame to, certain resistances that you would fight on an almost daily basis. This was the definition to me of being well enough to know certain things as knowledge and carry them on to other people. And that if you did so charismatically enough, you would gather a following of said philosophy. And that was a powerful thing in my sight. If you could be the destination of what that definition was and articulate it in a way that was charismatic enough to appeal to the hearts and minds of other people, then you were indeed well. There are some people that are listening right now that might think that that is exactly what wellness is for them now. But I can assure you that the definition of well for me has changed from more of the metaphysical means, which is almost a poetic overstudying of the physics, of the architecture. For I am a small space, minimum consistency, that I am in the center of the temple that I am building with which to allow light opening, building, and stairs, flights, and elevators. I used to think this very fervently and used to, dare I say it, while being donned in certain vestments, preach this philosophy to people who I believed needed, quote unquote, saving from their unwellness, which is a very dangerous thing because it deems the us versus them paradigm, which is the opposite of what a scholar would ever profess if they were smart enough, because there is no good or evil, only evidence. But what I am here to say is that definition has changed to me not seeing myself as fully well. I'll build more on that in time. But before I do, I am ever so eager to hear what Brother Eli has brought to the bill today.
Thank you, Brother Michael. Um, when we talking about health, wellness, I like to say wholeness. I like to say complete, because on an energetic level, they say when we have holes in our aura that allow us to receive some afflictions. Because when you see the sun or you see the light after someone have left their physical body, they are consumed by the light. There is no other way around the light. It was many people that spoke about they try to resist the light, and the more they resisted, the light consumed them with love. So consumption, transformation, reincarnation, unfolding, manifestation. How can someone be whole when they do not know that they are sick? How can you solve a problem that you don't even know even exists? I remember when the internet first got popular, I remember just so many people that I knew personally from Blog Talk. This one brother, I remember he even got the opportunity to be on Oprah, um, from an idea that I created. And it was many women who done very powerful things, from the conversation they had with me. This was back in 2010, 2011. And I remember how now we call them, well, I call them back then internet messiahs. When you had people such as myself spent many hours in the streets when we didn't have an internet. And I remember how you had a few brothers who they grew a beard and grew locks. I don't think beards was popular then. It kind of came a little after. Yeah. They grew locks and they may have read one or two books, but then they became a messiah and they had many followers. And I remember reflecting over that. I remember reflecting the difference between Bob Marley and Peter Tosh. How a lot of people know about Bob Marley, but they don't know about the true revolutionary Peter Tosh. It's just so many powerful people that created the foundation and was swept away by the unqualified. And thus we just create more havoc because they have the light, which they didn't earn the light. Even look at the story of Satan. When you read, I think the Bible, I forgot what verse, how he wanted to be God when Satan didn't do the work or the unseen work of creating heaven and earth and the universe. And then we go into the woman, how we just look at the situation between Lilith and Adam, how Lilith wanted to be Adam or be as great, as equal as Adam, but failed and messed a whole lot of things up. There are so many stories that um, you have you have King Arthur and Merlin and Guinevere. How Guinevere wanted Merlin's knowledge and magic and things of that nature, and she produced a child for King Arthur, and the child was nothing but an abomination. It didn't fulfill the destiny because she stole Merlin's knowledge. So you have to look at patterns, and some of us are earnest to learn new things in life because a lot of this stuff is repetitious and it's boring, extremely boring. That means that, from my standpoint, things need to be destroyed and start over instead of the divine ones continue to die on and they die of a broken heart. There's just so many people, so many people. And that's why me personally, from a child, I always said, no, don't thank me, thank God. I've been an advocate, and I'm looking around, and I still haven't seen one yet have such personality at such a young age. So now I'm coming to the zenith of my life at 50, coming up. So the sun is just sitting still, and I'm looking up at it, and I'm looking at the world. And we got these people like Kyrie Irving and Kanye West, the new arrivals to something that Little Richard and others been talking about for a long time. This is nothing new. They've been talking about that situation for a very, very long time. And but human beings, I'm gonna talk about Black people specifically because that's what group, for some reason, I was manifested in, this Black group. I was thinking about what is a man. Cause remember, this is being whole, this is being complete, this is being well. Wellness. Wellness is not just deal with physical health. Wellness is being complete, existence in complete harmony with a greater force. You are well. So, Brother Michael, I would like to have this conversation with you on the wellness of Black men specifically. So,
Yeah.
I want you to listen to this first part. Now, some of us say we believe in the Bible, we believe in the Quran, we believe in religious scriptures. And They always said in the scriptures that a man supposed to be a provider and protector. That's what they said. They didn't give us what community and what culture and what time period. They just threw this out and we just grabbed it like we do most things without thorough investigation of a subject. We
Hmm.
just grab stuff. They also said in America specifically that we are a permanent underclass, that we are grown children. And they've been saying this since the 30s and 40s. Now, I would like for you, Brother Michael, to give me your understanding on what they meant by we, the white man, speaking about black people, but black men specifically on this particular conversation.
Mhm.
What is a grown child? What is someone who is considered a person in a permanent underclass?
Unfortunately, at first glance, this is a very simple answer to a very simple question. And it's all based upon the psychology of when dealing with a child versus when dealing with an adult versus when dealing with an elder. If you give, let's say, a toy to a child, they are delighted in the toy. They will play with the toy, and then after a certain period of time, they will get bored with the toy and they will want a new toy. When dealing with an adult, if given the toy, they might gift the toy to a child where it's not of any consequence to them. But the interesting arc that I find that bends is as an elder, they reflect upon how the toy made them feel as a child. And they go back to a time when it was simpler, when they were happier, when they were in joy of these things. And out of that story, that reflection of their younger self, they will then give the toy to a child with a story of how they were at the time when they too were a child. When I was a child, I spake as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. The toy that we're speaking about is the illusion of richness in material things, shiny, dangly things, gold chains, new cars, houses of which you still have to pay taxes on without true ownership of said inanimate object. Um, Certain luxuries that we become slave to, these are toys to a child. And when they are bored with the toy, they need new toys. And they will do any and everything in order to get the new toy. Here's the other element, the competition element of said toy with other girls and boys who have the same toy or have more of the same toy or the latest toy. This is the whole argument of almost every industry that has been powered by African American descendants, even to this day. The hip hop industry, every part of that culture is a competition in regards to who has the most toys. However, the beginning, the origins of some of these staples that are inside of Black community, hip hop specifically, was about accumulating knowledge. In the very beginning, it was something that was thought of to be kind of our newscasting of what was going on in the world. And when I'm speaking of this, as examples, I'm speaking of Rakims, EPMDs, even as far as the Wu-Tang Clan. These were people that were talking about what was going on in society and not necessarily what is happening with all of the little pumps and little Waynes and the other, for lack of better articulation, little people. Interesting how they even call themselves little people, because what do we call our children if not gentlemen? Little man, little girl, little people. There's even there's even an artist that calls himself Little Baby. Interesting. But the elders look at this and they go, kids these days. And they remember what it was like for them when they were that age. And they'll compare. And in that comparison, they're trying to offer the gift that they have, the knowledge that they have ascertained, to the next child. How that translates into being a man versus being a boy, a girl that likes toys, is you are getting closer and closer to realizing your mortality. When you are a child, you thought of as immortal. Nothing can harm you. Nothing can bother you. Your health is not even thought of as a consequence at that time. When you become an adult, you start to feel certain frailties within your physical frame. You start to find certain holes in your bank account. You start to think of things that are limiting of your fullest potential here. And when you're an elder and you get closer and closer to what you believe is the Most High, none of that matters. None of it does. Whether or not you have gained those things in your childhood, whether it was ill-gotten or otherwise, or you never had them at all, and you realize for whatever reason in that reflection that the things that mattered most were your connections with people, your family, and of course, your own physical health for living as long as you have, despite the pains that you are feeling in your body. You know for a fact that even though you have an immortal soul, even if you believe you have an immortal soul, your skin will not live forever. Your joints will not live forever. Your bones will make brittle, and your muscles will fall weak, and your blood may go anemic. But in the lessons that are in this finite existence, what we call life, we reflect upon the things that we've done, the people we have helped, the movements that we believe we were a part of. And if nothing more than just being able to sit at our own table and say, yes, I was there when this happened, when this event occurred. Yes, I was a part of that movement. Or even something so much as to say, I made it through this much turmoil and trauma, and I have the scars to prove it, that I have earned my stripes to ascend somewhere greater. I think that's the difference. And I can only pull from examples of people who have come to me for counsel. One who knows nothing, but from my own personal experience, of which I had not shared until this evening. Under 48 hours ago, my not so little gentleman almost had his life ended in a car crash that happened at 11:50 p.m. He was 1 mile away from home, and he was hit head on. The car is totaled. This 20-year-old is right now being helped with physical therapy and recovery that will start tomorrow, with a lawyer that was of the choosing of the doctor who administers care that is complimentary because I work for him. He is taken care of. This child who lost his toy, grown up to at least an adult stature when near mortality occurred before him. He began as young as 20 years old to reflect upon back when, even if not as far as what we have traversed in my 42 years, in your almost 50. And he started to see what mattered and what didn't matter. The toy didn't matter because he thought of it now as a sacrifice that kept him alive. He cared so much for this toy. He kept it washed, he kept it clean. He even started to doctor it up with miniature paint jobs and all of these other things, neon lights, all of these adornments for his toy. To which, when he asked me, why did I lose the car? I don't want you to be upset with me because I lost this car. You paid for this car. I made the payments back to you. I care for this car. My answer was, because you cared, it reflected its care back on to you by sacrificing itself to keep you alive. You imbued this artifact that you rode in with joy, but with sustaining it. And in turn, it sustains you. He then not thought of it as a toy, but as a tool to keep him alive. He then, in front of me, at that moment, if only for that moment, became a man because he started to realize what matters and what doesn't. Doesn't matter how much money you had in the bank account. Doesn't matter how well your insurance was. It did not matter what girlfriend you were going to go see or if you even have one. What mattered was, without my health, I have nothing. Without my life, I'll have no more memories. This life is only memories anyway, that we transcend into knowledge that we pass on to people. And the evidence that we find from the procedures that are put on into this project, that is the lessons in finite existence, that I say is the anagram for what life is. It's all that we are here to do. He achieved manhood 36 hours ago. And I see that little gentleman as a man. Now, in regards to the social demographic, I have to be honest with you. I detach, I reflect, I deflect even from the masses of a social demographic, much to might even be the dismay of the build itself, because we are here to reach people. However, we are here to reach the right people. We are here to reach people who aspire to be those adults who put away such childish things and toys and can share knowledge as a new gift. And whether or not this light that we carry is a torch that our children did or did not deserve, that's what makes it a gift. And if we grow them up in the way that they should go, they will not see it as a toy, but as a tool.
So, what is your definition of permanent underclass?
My definition of permanent underclass is to continue to remain in the idea of being a child. Because men make decisions, children do not. Elders make decisions. We talked about the elements of what made a man, certain things that makes a community even. Land, a bank, school, farming, grocery. Those are industries that are indeed important in making a community. But what makes a man, to me, has everything to do with the maturity of making right and just decisions, objective, scholarly interpretations of data, and then making, with the best sound judgment possible, decisions. We've seen many of the higher class, the elite, even, not even have to make decisions. They would just follow upon the footsteps of those who made those decisions before, thus maintaining royalty, thus maintaining a family bloodline, thus maintaining this level of eliteness. We see certain adults who will even revert back to their childhood because they can afford certain toys. And I believe the combination of that childlike joy with getting a toy, and competition, and wanting more toys, all these material things is what causes a person to be underclassed, because they will not articulate their ways as an adult, as an elder. Something as simple as the right attire upon being in a certain demographic to show that you must respect my presence in a certain way. It demands not attention, but intention. There's something about a person who can walk into a room and without saying a word, people will look at them and say, I need to know what he has to say. Children, unfortunately, those who dig more into the things that do not accumulate value, but actually the second that they drive them off the lot or take them and place them on their body, denote and lower the value and fall in love with those. Those are the children. It's easy to appease a child when giving them new toys. It's not so easy to appease an adult in that way. And even worse still, to give to an elder these frivolous things when they know that they put in the work for certain guarantees to be given them, it's downright disrespectful. Now, there have been talks about, in our culture, reparations and what we deserve. The whole 40 acres and a mule conversation. And I know that I am in the company of a person who has put in work and deserves certain guarantees even if it were 40 people at an acre apiece, would see it as something that was worth of value. But the problem that we have is in dealing with class, that the mentality is crabs in a barrel. It's a competition. Children, I am better than you. You are not better than I am. And we'll continue to pull each other down. Very few builds have been put together to raise the maturity from child to man. Even fewer still standing, because certain elders, certain elites, certain higher upperclassmen choose to be bullies against the freshmen. And is that not most of what we've been talking about all these bills, the bullies getting all of the attention? And so if we hold on to the title of being permanently underclassed, then we begin to believe it so much that we quit trying to raise our class. Now, that's just my submission.
Yes, sir. So, going to wholeness and health
Yes.
in the real world,
Yeah.
the Bible said, "Know of a surety, Abraham, that thy seed will be a stranger in a strange land that is not theirs, and they shall serve them and shall afflict them for 400 years."
Mm-hmm.
So my question, another question I'm about to ask you is, because I'm heading towards somewhere. I'm gonna just say this. We have blood in our veins. The blood in our veins carry memories. Most people don't know because they don't do research. They don't have the knowledge to ask the proper questions. So I'm gonna say this. The 12th great grandparent. You know how many people it takes for this you and I to be born going back 12 generations? Let me share this with you. It takes 16,384 people for you to be allowed to be here. I'm going to say that again
Yes,
because people
please.
just don't know what is going on. I'll start off with the 9th great grandparent. It takes 2,048 people to create you, going back to the 9th great grandparent. Going to the 10th great grandparent, it takes 4,916. Going to the 11th great grandparent, it takes 8,192 people to have come together. And to go back to the 12th great grandparent, it takes 16,384 people. So if we go back to the individuals who have did 1,000 years in bondage and slavery to the Muslim slave trade, and then 400 some years, 500 some years in the United States as being slaves as well. Those are genetic markers that's on Black people. And we are walking around with that type of burden that is supporting our biological system as fools and degenerates.
Mm-hmm.
So how is it possible that it take almost 17,000 people to create you and I and others, individuals, to come together to create us so we can exist in 2022, yet we are not black men in America.
Mm.
So, because again, people think this is a joke, and that's why you suffer, because it's not a joke. If you are carrying blood of serious people, like
Mhm.
even when I heard the story about Brother Michael's father and how he ironed his pants and clothes and made his bed and just such organized, and how his mother has such, you know, things that she supported him with, in contrast with I had to be alone in the streets. So we doing with two different extremes.
Yes.
Someone who was seriously supported and backed from birth, compared to being a 10th child when I was being grown in the womb, that here come another bill, here come another problem.
Mm.
And when I came home, one of my sisters says, "Oh, another one." When
Mm.
compared to when someone else came home, they had challenges that they accepted as a grown person to make a human being that's on this internet at this very moment.
Mm.
So I'm going to say that to say this. Are we respecting the sacrifices of 6,000 plus people as individuals who exist today? Because if individuals went through slavery, one of the main things as men is freedom. That's what they yearned for,
Yeah.
was freedom. So when we talk about freedom, we're talking about being men amongst men in the positions of power. You have some men that can show their sons books and wall paintings of their great, 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 great grandfather and grandmother. I remember I used to be around people of such, and I used to sit there and admire them because I was someone on like an orphan type of child. I used to look back like, man, they know their great great grandparents this, they got books and they got that, they know their own language, and it just felt so good for my imagination to be born in such a situation when I was not.
Mm.
So Brother Michael gave his expose of what a man is and what a child is. But my perspective is coming from a more serious perspective. The blood, like the blood of Christ. Are we respecting the blood that sustains our body and our DNA, that have memories and that have yearning for some things to be fulfilled? And are we doing those things that 16,000 people wanted, that we have an opportunity to gain at this moment? Yet we are not. Are we doing as men? I say emphatically no. We are not doing nothing. So, as a person who sacrificed most of his life for others, being a young child with his mother on the streets, trying to feed homeless while being homeless himself at 5 and 6, people can't comprehend the memories I have and the patience I've had, because I say I'm gonna wait till I'm like 50 or 65 to have an opinion.
Mm.
So a person can't fathom or have a comprehension of such patience. Even when I was mentally debating the yogists from the East and the Buddhists, the reason why they do not qualify because they live in an environment that supports spirituality. They live in an environment, if you want to be a priest or a monk, you're supported. Yet black people, when we want to do righteousness in the ghetto, we are not supported. So they are not qualified to be the true yogist or to say any type of wisdom. You're not qualified. And that's why it's strange that even the Dalai Lama or these yogists never came to the black community. I've been thinking about that
Mm-hmm.
question since the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing our condition, no visits. They go to the white universities and that's it.
Mm.
Something about that. Yet black people on the internet worshiping these people. We do love knowledge. So me and brother Michael and I spoke about the 5 basics to be considered a community. Not men yet,
Yes.
but basics in the community. Farmland to grow your food. A grocery store in the same area to put your produce. A money system or a banking system to have a form of exchange of the produce. Hospitals, you got to do it like that because the fingers. So, a hospital to help those who may get injured farming the food. Schools to educate the youth so we can continue the progress and then we can hopefully have a neighborhood. So we have a community within someone else's neighborhood because we don't own the land.
Mm-hmm.
Then we buy our own neighborhood because it only take a few thousand people to create your own corporation as a state, like a city. And then after that, because the fuss been talking about these European Jews that exist in the United States, and they will tell you, even when you go in some cities in New York, they have their own banks,
Yep.
their own kind work at their banks. They have their own hospital and ambulances and doctors. Their own kind fulfill those roles. They have their
Mm-hmm.
own schools. They have their own food, land, culture within the city
Yeah.
limits.
Yeah.
So when they have children driving in their neighborhoods, their children are in an environment before they were born with the culture of being responsible of their existence.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you an example of my own personal situation. The reason why I think homeschooling and things of that is important because they will have to mingle with children who are unruly. And we already have the knowledge when you have two young minds that all the work you put in your particular gentleman or lady will be more influenced by the children who were idiots in that environment. We already
Mm-hmm.
know these things. We got evidence of that.
Yeah.
So we continue to suffer because as men in the community, we don't want to establish our own. Because I've been a part of some of communities that children didn't even care about TVs, internet, cars, motorcycles, games. They didn't have no concern with that because the men in that community literally created their own culture and it was sealed. Yet you couldn't see it with the physical eye.
Mm-hmm.
So since we're evidence based, we're suffering because we have not fulfilled the prayers of over 6,000 people. So let's talk about these Irving's people that play sports. There are
Mm-hmm.
approximately 400 NBA professional players and who make millions of dollars. So I rounded off 74% of 400 is 200 men. Yet, we don't have our own league. And they're making well over hundreds of millions of dollars. There are approximately 15 to 16 black billionaires.
Mhm.
There are approximately about 1.7 million African American millionaires. 1.79 black millionaires. 15 to 16 black billionaires. There are approximately there are approximately 150,000 black physicians. And no, excuse me, physicians in general. My pardon me.
Mhm.
3,300 are black, 1,600 are black men, 1,600 are black female. So that is what, 4,900 out of 34 million black people in America, out of 1.8 million black millionaires, out of 15 to 16 black billionaires. We have basically a historical hospital, possibly. That's at Howard University. They talk about the historical fact.
Mhm.
So we got 16, so we got 296 multi-millionaire basketball players. I ain't talking about football, basketball players.
Mhm.
15 to 16 billion black African Americans, approximately 1.8 million black millionaires, and we only have almost 5,000 black physicians, approximately a half of a hospital.
Hmm.
Remember, we're talking about manhood and independence and the blood that run through our
Yes.
bones of freedom,
Mhm.
which we spoil daily. So we have a few black grocery stores that I discovered. I think it was really only one, but these are supermarkets. They have one in Houston, Food Circle in New Orleans, Daddy Neighborhood Fresh Market, and Omaha Daily Organics in Los Angeles. So it's not really grocery stores. I think they got one independent grocery stores out of 34 million blacks.
Mhm.
290 plus multimillionaire basketball players, 15 to 16 black billionaires, 1.8 million black millionaires. There are no black elementary schools. There are approximately 45,000 black farms. 45,000 farms out of 3.4 million farmers. So we have 34 million black people who spend 2 to 3 trillion dollars. 15 to 16 black billionaires. 1.8 million millionaires.
Mhm.
We cannot point to 2 city blocks where there is an independent land that can grow food, because now we have people growing food on top of skyscrapers.
Yeah.
And you got a lot of people talking about we have this food deserts in the black community.
Mhm.
So the black community is 34 million black people. Remember, the subject is freedom, manhood,
Mhm.
and we're using 16,000 people's blood and desires who were denied everything that we freely throw away today. So we have 290 plus multi-millionaire professional basketball players. We don't own a league. 16, 15 black billionaires. 1.8 million black millionaires.
Mm-hmm.
And we spend approximately $2 to $3 trillion as a black community. And we don't have farm that's connected to a local community. I'll say farm.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a grocery store in that same little area that's connected. We don't have a bank that's in that same area. We don't have hospital, two hospitals, and we don't have a school in one little area. And mind you, in certain parts of the United States, they sell in entire cities for a few $1,000,000. So how is it possible to say I'm gonna raise a young man in America? Because a lot of people are dissatisfied the way young children, men, boys specifically, behave in America. So let's look at this. We got the blood of over 16,000 people going through our bodies with memories, genetic
Yeah.
memories. I'm gonna give an example. I'm from Ohio, but I remember when I first moved to the South, I saw a tag with the Klan flag on it, just a tag. And I felt a certain way. I'm like, wait a minute, why I feel a certain way when I'm from Ohio and I'm not in that century? So genetic memory.
Mm-hmm.
So how is it possible when it concerns to wellness when we don't even know how it feels to see a black face on a currency and exchanges of something of value? We don't know the feeling of that. We don't know how it feels to take your young black children to a warehouse that build and manufacture cars. We don't know what it feels like to take young black children to our own independent hospitals that was educated next to the building by our own black university. We don't know what it feels like. Our children in their DNA do not know what it feels like to even see a functioning community where respectable black men exist who own the things that they produce or exist on. Ownership. How would it feel to have your black children walk with you to see two rockets go up and land back on the earth, breaking the sound barrier while they're laying? How would your black boys feel seeing their father create an object in their own presence? So, how is it possible to have children who exist in their right minds? Because if you are growing in the womb of a woman, and the first 5 months of a woman's pregnancy determine the character of a child, how is it possible for a woman to produce a sane baby when she is not allowed genetically to respect the boy that is growing in her womb because the fear that she have of a other society to suppress his thought divinity from 16,000 people that stand behind us? So if the womb cannot respect the environment with gleam and glamour and love because You see black women today worship babies that have multi-million dollar contracts, right? Because we have a man today, and they have the right to do it. You already know how I feel about these humans.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never right. But there's a Gabrielle Union, I don't know the dude's name, Wade or something, that they are growing a 12-year-old person. I really don't understand what's going on. I haven't looked at it enough.
Mm.
So can you imagine you have pregnant women, black women specifically, who have more than 16,000 births and growth in the womb of not seeing their own a darn thing.
Mm.
How can one be sane? Because when you see a ride or die chick, she may deal with a low life,
Mm.
but she see her low life trying. So even the whole thing is just degenerate and deplorable. But that's not the point. The point is she's pregnant and she have a money, a currency in her hand that looks like her. Because we saw
Mhm.
when there were a black mermaid, how little girls was crying and happy because it just looked like them.
Yeah.
We don't have one generation to see us be independent on any level. Remember, we're talking about wholeness and health and wealth. Health. So your health is being destroyed because you're not allowed to express manhood. This
Mm.
is a subconscious thing that I'm dealing with, a
Mm.
spiritual thing that I'm dealing with. Because we come from sperm cells. So if the man is degenerate in his stature, he have to be a sharecropper, but not the owner of the land. That sperm cell is fraudulent. It's like it's not right. Then the ovary, the egg that it grows in is not right. Because we don't even know what it feels. Like I know people that says, well, my great 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 grandfather paid for this part of the building of this university. That's in his
Mm.
endowment. We can't even comprehend how that feels to walk into an established university and seeing your own parents' name with their picture on it.
Mm.
So when it comes to manhood, being a man, from my perspective, is to liberate our blood because our blood is still bound because we have yet to build our freedom, our civilization, so our blood can be free. Our
Mm.
blood is not free. Therefore, we suffer because there is some unseen force, which is our blood, which is conscious, that
Yeah.
know that something's not right. Something is not right. Something is not right. And they said many years ago, when it comes to black men, because of the black mothers, that the boy will become a man physically strong, but mentally weak. And that's
Mhm.
why we got 6'9" and 7'10" and 11 foot thousand, 300 million pound men throwing rims and hoops down the street, yet can't
Mhm.
produce their own league.
Mm.
That's a physical evidence we didn't have in the 70s and 80s. Because there are black men today are taller, bigger, and strong. We physically
Mhm.
see
Yeah.
the evidence of when we get to do something that we will produce children that will play the part.
Yeah.
It
That's
was
right.
only one or two people tall back in the days, but now only black women had to look at these nincompoops, so they produce nincompoop, taller, bigger sports figures,
Mm-hmm.
which is a degeneration of our bloodline. Why you say that? Because you got so many black people said, we are mothers and fathers, mothers and stuff of the queens of civilization, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
But we cannot read and write. 80% cannot read and write. Don't do math. We're the fathers of math, but we don't do math. So,
Mm.
permanent underclass. When you have women who have to walk around, see Wakanda movies and all these movies of strong black women, which is one of the most degenerate things in all of existence, because I don't exist in trash. Most dwell in trash. And this strong black woman stuff is beneath shit. Because these people who are full of shit are trying to tell a divine person and myself that there is no strength in motherhood.
Hmm.
All of these animals walking around bald headed and savage like are not even mothers. The most powerful thing in all of religion is the womb of a woman to produce a Messiah child. In ancient Egypt and even in the walls of Rome. And you got these black women masquerading their stupidity, supreme degeneracy,
Mm.
not even showing the power of a mother, but
Mm.
want to fight as a man. Thus, going back to Lilith, don't even
Mm.
support what you are, trying to say existence is not smart enough. Existence was not wise enough to
Mm.
say that being a mother, growing a child is powerful. So we troll these things are trying to say doing martial arts with swords and stuff is greater than being a mother.
Mm.
When we say Mother Earth, the mitochondria DNA come from the one woman. That's
That's right.
saying a mother.
That's right. That's
I didn't
absolutely
say
right.
warrior.
No. No.
But of course, Satan always fooled the world through a woman, Eve. So you continue to go there where you don't belong. You
Hmm.
are a fraud. And we're not learning nothing new because things continue to repeat. Because while we're seeing masculine black women with knives and swords jumping around and flipping around, I'm looking at Walt Disney seeing robots doing acrobatic flips because of mathematics and science, which we supposedly have originated. Such
Right.
embarrassment.
Mm.
They out in Mars. That's why they don't care about the Hispanics coming, because they're not replacing their jobs. We are fighting over crumbs, careers that don't even exist anymore. Robots can do what we do now.
Yeah.
And we got people cheering on. It's called distraction because you are permanent babies. You don't know what is valuable, a
Mm.
warrior woman or a mother.
Mm.
And the men don't know what is valuable, ownership or being an employee who can buy things for an individual.
Mm.
The Native Americans and others talk about doing the things today to support 7 generations.
Yeah.
7 generations. You have corporations that we lackluster over, like JP Morgan and other companies. But these companies are at least 100 years old.
Yes, they are.
They were looking at a few generations, and they was willing to do whatever they needed to do to support these industries.
Some of them are ill-gotten gains.
Let me go to that for 1 second, brother.
Yeah.
Because no, nigga, you have to wait till you die and get yours in heaven concept. Because again, we don't even know what true manhood is as blacks in America because something is not right. There is a powerful force that is over us. Now I'm going to a higher subject
Mm-hmm.
because black men and women, and I'm speaking to you straight, a lot of stuff is not our fault. It's something that I haven't pinpointed that is greater, that is keeping this thing perpetuated because we continue to try in our great degeneracy. And that's why you see men physically taller and stronger. And even the women are taller. The woman that's in Russia, she's 6'9". So we are trying, but it's a greater force that's
Mm-hmm.
keeping us to a ground level. And that's why we cannot be mad at the 15 million billionaires, the 1.9 million millionaire blacks, and the degenerate mothers, and the knucklehead teenage boys, and the drug dealers. And we can't be mad because it's something that is on this earth that is greater. Something. And it may be over your mental pay grade, black people. But just be honest. It is impossible for us to be in this condition because we looked at white people. White people are not as mentally smart and don't have enough brain mass, and they're physically weaker, but something allowing them to progress. So it's something that's greater. It truly is because I love honest conversations. So
Yeah.
even though I speak to you in these terms, but I'm being honest, something else is holding us back. It's something because I asked black people, yes, we want to talk about white supremacy, but what did black people do to allow God to put us in this situation in the first place? It's something else, black people. That's why you don't talk bad on white races. And you don't talk bad, honestly, against prostitutes and whores and degenerate situations. It's something that I cannot find as an individual, but it's something out of all of our efforts that is keeping their claws on black people specifically. And it's been going on for 4 to 5,000 years. And that's why these
Yeah.
talks, they won't have one or two people because I am willing to talk about certain things that others are not because they just don't know. But I want
Mm-hmm.
to keep it on the simplest terms. You have to be honest because how is it possible that we got basketball players and young teenagers taller and stronger? We got that evidence,
Mm-hmm.
but yet we're still subservient all over the world. We got all of people, all we got the internet now. People are all over the world, but black people are so subservient. And now Queen Elizabeth died, and the British Empire have relinquished a lot of its power. So black people, I don't know what to tell you to be honest, but we got to go a little deeper. But we don't read enough or we don't contemplate enough. It's something that is greater than white people, than Chinese people. It's something that is whole because we invented everything. Even the video games. So we got that. We see, remember, I'm evidence based, but
That's right.
something is not allowing us to just triumphant. And people told us that we wouldn't wait 600 years because it's supposed to go down to the white man, then the yellow man, then the brown man, then back to the black man in power. So it's
Mm-hmm.
something. It is something, black people, that is forcing us just to die of a broken heart because we do try and we try, but I have to rebuke that strong woman stuff because Williams is the real deal. But guess what? She supported her motherhood. Period.
Yes, she
Michelle
did.
Obama is a beast. She look like she's 7 foot and she can use her big old legs to kick you 1,000 miles away. But guess what? When she went on her job interviews as a professional woman, she took her children with her.
That's right. That's right.
Show that on a movie screen because black
Hmm.
people don't read books is in her books. But anyway,
That's right.
Mike, I just want to leave you with that part because again, I haven't honestly figured out why. Because we got no for surety that thy seed will be a slave in 40 years. We 6,000 years, the Muslim slave trade. We got so many years of a weaker mentally people, weaker physically people, weaker on every level, but yet
Hmm.
they rule. It's something else, brother Michael. It's something
for
else.
for me, I have to be honest, and it might be a way more intricate answer, but I think the only missing element is we forgot how to be unified. We have unlearned how to form Voltron, if you will, become that machine that's going to do the work together. The whole crabs in the barrel saying comes from the ignorance of the crabs, because if they were to form a bridge or ladder up the barrel, eventually they'd all get out. If one carried from the top onward, they crawled upon each other's shoulders, formed a bridge of bodies, and one at a time pulled them out. Everyone would leave the barrel. We don't do that as a
Brother Mike, I'm
community.
sorry, but we have the evidence of all countries fight within themselves, but they still get a chance to rule. Everyone fight and betray each other and kill. They all got traitors and we got government. So we got the evidence, brother. I just want to put that on there.
But we also have the evidence of how many slices of the pie we've been put in as Black people. What is Jim Crow? Why is it that light skinned women and dark skinned women are still beefing with each other over who's more beautiful? Why is it that we have this idea that even elders and the youth cannot have a conversation with each other due to respect? The illusion of respect. We're taught, we tell our children, well, we don't, you and I don't, but Black people taught your way of respect in your household is be able to tell your children that they can be seen and not heard. That I can do whatever I want to do, but you can't do what you want to do. Do as I say and not as I do. That once you turn 18 years old, whether or not you are ready for the world or not, you are kicked out of here. And I am free of you, which causes a trauma of the child. All of these little institutions within the institutions have taught us not to unify. If we don't teach ourselves to unify as a family unit, as brothers and sisters by that blood that we are talking about, in a literal sense, how can we ever do it outside the world of our own homes? We can't. We have not been given the examples in our own families. I saw something that brought a tear or two, or maybe even three, to my eyes tonight, a few hours ago, upon going to a grocery store while watching all of the cultures, black, white, yellow. all shopping for their Thanksgiving foods. I saw a man holding his child inside of something that resembled swaddling cloth, covering the child's face, and a woman that I will presume was the mother of the child. This man had a tether on his right ankle. He looked at this woman, who I will presume was the mother of the child, kissed her on the cheek, and said, "I'm so glad to be home." Now, that family will not go towards any lengths to find our definition of freedom, but I can guarantee you, based upon the response that I saw in that family, that that was a definition of freedom for them. Because they're unified. And as crazy as it may sound, they were together. That man, that woman, that child. And for the masses, a little is enough. That's enough for them. They could die today and be happy with that. It's enough for them. We are the burning bush, an unsatisfied, peculiar, goody two-shoes type people, because we know, we have learned, we have studied, we have read, we have dug deep and know that the human capacity is far greater than what some are just simply settling for. That's in regards to wellness as a community, wellness as in a culture that we own. However, as I said earlier, I am not well. And I'm going to explain why I'm owning that today. Because a person that is well, that is prominent, that is those figures who are in that upper and higher class, I can guarantee you would not have shed any tear for that man that was in that tether, that was holding that child and kissing that woman who was thought of as a baby mama and saying, "I'm glad I'm home." That's not wellness. But it affected me, so I will define myself as not being well. I will understand that one of the 72 definitions of love is the precursor of mania. And I love people who don't even know me. That means I'm not well. I have gone into the sense of the precursor of mania every time I put on royal blue scrubs and care from anywhere between 20 to 50 patients in rehabilitative care, despite them even wanting the care truly themselves enough to do what they are supposed to do before they get to me. But I love them anyway. There's something wrong with me. I'm not well. When it comes to the idea of finances, of building an empire, an establishment, and even wanting to think about in the build tonight, the original bill was going to be about finances and how to finance ourselves towards manhood. But because my emotion felt for my son, none of that mattered. I didn't care about the toys anymore. I didn't care about what we are not doing as a people. All I know was my son walked on his own 2 feet after something that looked like the combination of a hand grenade and a flashbang hitting him. at 10 minutes to midnight. I didn't care about anything about that. All I knew was I love my son and he is alive. Something wrong with me because I value in those moments life and love and limb over the idea of liberty. Freedom for me, as individualized as it shouldn't even be, because we realize that we are a oneness and one is the biggest number and all of us exist because everything else exists. I'm telling you that in that moment, none of that mattered. None of it did. An illness happens to a person who loves something better or more than they love themselves. That is until you talk to another father and ask them if they love their son more than they love themselves. That convict with a tether on his right ankle, if I was to ask him the question about being permanently underclass or being able to have the ability to kiss that woman on the left side of him and say, I'm glad to be home, which one matters? I guarantee you he'd pick B instead of A because there's something wrong with him too. The thing that is wrong with us is our definition of love is so amalgamated, it's so morphed that it has become the opposite of unity. It has become me for self, me not having the literal whippings of a white man upon my back, though we do it every time we clock in at 7 a.m. or 9. Of not having to ask permission to use the bathroom like you do in institutions and facilities for those who are criminal. That I can turn on a light and turn it off when I want to. These are our very, very limited, degraded definitions of freedom. And it ends up being enough for those who have been afraid of how emotional potency can be, of how intellectual potency can be. Let me say that right. Intellectual potency, educational potency can be, and amassed into actions that would develop us as a people. That's when none of it matters. That's why we have those who are progressive in thinking, who would think of themselves even as free thinkers, and then for whatever reason, when they're near death, they grasp to any kind of God they could hold on to. Because in those moments when you realize your mortality, your mentality doesn't mean nothing. Because damn it, I could die today. Some of the greatest philosophers of the Stoic philosophy, let me go by definition of that. Stoicism is the definition of everything not mattering. At the end, none of it matters. I'm going to pull it by definition literally because I really want to drive this home. Stoicism, by definition, is the endurance. Oh, this is powerful. The endurance of pain or hardship without the display of feelings and without complaint. What is it that we say at the end of these bills when we hold these candles? That we cannot complain against the darkness and the harshness. We say it every time that we collect our consciousness here. We are stoicists. Stoics. An ancient Greek school of philosophy founded by Athens at Zeno and Citium. The school taught that virtue, the highest good, is based on knowledge. The wise live in harmony with the divine reason that governs nature, and are indifferent to the vicissitudes of fortune and the pleasure and pain. And to dig in even deeper, the vicissitudes, because that's a nice big chunky ninth grade letter word. A change or circumstances of fortune, typically one that is unwelcome or pleasant. Trauma. We are people who are constantly in fight or flight because we are present in the midst of an environment full of trauma that is not healed, that is not even defined. Psychologists do not have any studies in their books whatsoever in regards to the psyche of an African American male. Hundreds of years of study, it has all been done by Caucasian males about Caucasian males. They don't know the Black mind. That's why they medicate us. Why are there no more books that are built and studied based upon our mind? These supreme minds that we say were the heir of kings and queens, their blood through our veins. Yet the only Hannibal we know is the one that ate people. Look that one up, who Hannibal really is. It's because when you get a person's mind, you have everything else at your disposal. You can look at a Black man and a white man on a basketball court, and you can automatically, with full prejudice, full pride and prejudice, say, yeah, that Black man gonna beat that white man tail in this game. Sit them both at a chessboard, it'll be a different story, even if the white man never played. Just him appearing to be in thought, automatically, by our pride and prejudice, we'll say that he was a smarter one. We're prejudiced. We are prideful of our toys. We are children. And there is something wrong with us because our definitions of love bring us to mania and not of any sense and too much consequence. But I'm not saying it as a person that's well telling the person that is sick. I'm saying that as a sick one too. Someone heard my cough last week. Brother Eli said it sounded like a demon choking me. I am not well. We are not well. But it does not mean that through our sicknesses, we cannot get better. So I would call forth a charge unto anyone who has said that we are the permanent underclass. Sit them side my table and say that by my actions, however mute they might be compared to what they are allowed to do in my situation, I beg to differ. Here was how I would beg to differ. The things that makes of a community. I thank you for this, Brother Eli, because you're allowing me to do something that I honestly should not be doing at this hour. I'm getting warm right here. I'm getting
God
warm.
is blessing us. My brother, God is blessing us.
I'm warm now. I'm not cold now. I'm not cold now. I'm warming up here. And I'm thankful for that. But just the idea of something taking away from your voice, something taking away from your psyche, something taking away from your physical strength, something taking away from your longevity. That's a slavery in itself. And dare I say it, it's a stronger slavery than any 9 to 5 or 7 to 3 or 3 to 12 that you'll ever go to. It's a bigger slavery than any tax that you'll ever pay for any of the toys that you have as a child, any love that you have ever lost, and wondered why Shakespeare said it that way, that it was better to love and lost than not at all. It's tough to put it all in one conversation. It's impossible to do it that justice in one conversation. And we'd have to do these and more. But I will say this before we close. Our stoicism, our fact-based stoicism, does not make us machines. It barely allows us to maintain the hope of a child. If our bank account never says so, whether or not the amount of toys we earn never say so. To me, it makes the person sitting beside me a man, because he has seen things through the grace, through his works, through his efforts, that's teaching us something. And dare I say it, Brother Eli, this child that I am respects you as an elder. And let that be a gift that I give you, whether or not you accept it in your humility, of which has proven itself many, many times. I can't help it. My childlike self cannot help it. And I know exactly what you're going to say, Brother Eli, just as you did when you were 10 and 6. Don't thank me. Thank God. Don't you thank me. Don't you dare thank me. You thank God. And I do thank God. But I know something's wrong with me, Brother Eli. I know I'm not well. And because I love the way I love, I might not ever get better.
I'm gonna say this, brother. And of course, I really don't like a lot of people on the internet, so that's why I'm not really going more into what you guys as a home had to experience, which is very serious, extremely serious. And that is what I was ending on the last time I was speaking. It seems to be something because, Brother Mike, when I looked this up, remember everybody suffers, right? World War I, approximately 10 million military men died. 17 million civilian died. 21 million wounded. Now, this is white on white crime. And then World War II, approximately 35 million to 60 million. But they still have a country. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Is
Mm-hmm.
we all going through something, but it's just something that we are not. Perfect example. Perfect example. Now, what would be, think about this. If God allowed us through God's love to allow us to be free men, I would have heard something like that. Got on a private flight, would have been in North Carolina immediately to help you and your family. You see what I'm saying? We are bound for some reason not to show true brotherhood and manhood, but only with words. And I've been listening to words since I was a child. But I guarantee if I was some type of prostitute on OnlyFans making $50 million in a year, I could have done that. You see what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
something unseen is allowing us to really enjoy true wellness because things happen. But to see that support, to see a brother online who would just had the opportunity to bring his entire family to support your situation, just from a simple text, not just being online. See, that hurts the spirit because we like, wait a minute, we seeing they have the ability to do that.
Yeah.
We'll have young gentlemen to really feel esteem, or feel love, that will see a community of men surrounded by him physically
Yeah.
after a situation. You see what I'm saying? Or arriving at a black hospital. Brother, that's what I'm saying. And look, brother, I've just been dealing with for so long, and I'm not seeing nothing that is letting up. That is letting up. But I do see others that have the ability. And again, I just don't know why us are just forced to go through some unreasonable situations constantly. Because, brother, I don't know if you noticed what I posted about black trauma neurologically.
Yes.
Now,
Yeah.
that's scientific, that
Yeah.
racism.
That's deep.
So, yeah, we got the physical evidence, let alone a pregnant woman who's growing a child,
Yeah.
because how is it affecting that child's brain while it's growing, since it takes about 7 years. See,
Mm-hmm.
brother, it's something that's real deep that we're not even scratching the surface. Something deep that is very oh,
It's
we'll just
visceral. It's
very, brother.
visceral. It is it should literally cause a term that I had placed in a poem: unisonic extrication of our physical bodies. One death should ascend us all. One wound should bleed us all.
That's right.
I I I I get it. The problem is we are preaching to the choir, bro. Even if it's only one soprano. That's the problem. I don't know how we get to Carnegie, but our violins must play elsewhere. But while we are still here, at least we have this version of each other. And the reason why I say this version is because if we truly, if we truly know all of our facts about what oneness is, about what wholeness is, when you realize that everything exists because everything else does. We exist because everything else exists. We are that oneness. And who's to say that there aren't other brother Eli's and triumphants that have yet to emerge and meet each other, or versions of ourselves in parallel universes or omniverses in different time periods that tried to do and failed before they could get as far as we have. Who's to say? I'm just glad that I am here today. I'm glad that you are here today. I'm glad that my son is here today. Whether or not I had responsibility of him being here. And that is all I know. One thing that is proved in my experience in these finite years is there'll be complete strangers that'll show more love to you than your own flesh and blood. I have brothers whose only blood they share with me is our ancestors of generations way past 7, of the same afflictions, the same types of burning bushes. And in my limited sickness and illness, in my not unwellness, in my unwellness, I have to say, it's a fight that's primordial battle inside of me because a part of me knows that better should be expected of me and my other people. But another part of me says, if this is all that I can get, I'll be grateful. Let us close, brother, and get out of this coldness.
I'm gonna bring up one more thing, brother. My apologies.
No, you're fine.
This is something I just discovered that. Remember, I spoke about the mikvah with the Jewish women. This is something else that
Yes.
I noticed. I heard about it, but I wasn't clear on it. But they start the new day at sunset. So
Yeah.
their day start at sunset. Because we got to figure out why some people are getting blessed by the unseen world when we are not. Because remember, because,
Mhm.
you know, we got to solve this thing for all of us. Because, like you said, when one bleed, the other bleed. I remember one of the blessing young gentlemen, I showed up at his school. He had a big knot on his forehead. Now, this is the child I delivered,
Yes.
but I'm in someone else's school and someone else. So the level of pain, I know what it feels like. And that's why I'm so adamant to at least have something that we as men can own, because it don't just affect us, it affect the younger ones. That's why I'm so adamant, because it's a stream. Father means further.
Yes.
Even, but back to that. So if you have time to do a little research on that,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm trying to, because while they tell us to party on Saturday, they fasting and praying. Cause remember,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Friday, just got paid Friday night. See, but they are going into
Night.
prayer and
Hmm.
fasting, right? So if they going into
Yes,
prayer and fasting because they start their day when the sun sets, and we start our foolishness when the sun
that's correct.
sets on Friday and Saturday. So,
Absolutely.
because brother, I'm really trying to figure
Mhm.
this thing out because it's an unseen force that continue to punish us due to our ignorance. And we have time because the internet is allowing us to try to pinpoint some things that we can do that the unseen force will protect us from these calamities, constant
Mhm.
calamities that just don't affect the children. They affect the older people more than the children.
Yeah.
It affects us
Yes, it
more
does. Yes, it does.
because not just them. Because I had a situation when I was a city bus driver. I drove by a car that was destroyed in Tucson, Arizona. Literally, I drove by it, a head on collision. It was in a truck, destroyed. So I'm up here driving by it, and it was a peers. She was a female, single mother. That was her
Mm,
son's truck. And I
mm,
remember couldn't get out of my mind to go tell her about the accident she didn't know nothing about.
mm.
I remember I had to tell my mother my sister passed away. And we were driving to Ohio, and with my mother in her older years, you know how delicate that is. That
Yes,
type
I
of
do.
pain as an older person. So I'm looking at all the calamities that we all are experiencing, and it's constant. I'm trying to figure out what did we do because no one is knowledgeable to answer the question why God put us in this situation. In general, to start with, what did we do? Because I'm talking about unseen and manifest seen. And what do we continue to do? So I'm yearning to at least see the evidence of some actions that the unseen forces will just decide to bless us.
Mm,
Because we already know that other people are being blessed, but they're having the same calamities as well, but they're being blessed to do other things. But us, we were told that we are the mother and fathers of civilization. So
mm.
we are doing something to the unseen that is the unseen is keeping pounding our heads because sometimes the unseen will take our children from us
Yes.
to beat us because you even had Master P's daughter pass away.
Mhm.
I mean, look at Bobby Brown. Bobby Brown's wife passed and her daughter. So again, I'm
Yes.
just looking at multiple things because it says in Quran that we will die in a certain way if we live a certain way. So I'm trying to get
Absolutely.
the answers to relieve us on the real subject that will have the hedge of protection. Like when I got hit by a semi truck, that I could go to another job at night. When somebody the other day
Mhm.
got hit by a log truck and died.
Mhm.
It's some things that I think that we're not doing on a silent, quiet level, on a secret level that the unseen force want to keep pounding us in the head because we're not doing something secretly proper.
Mm, mm.
Because this universe is too educated, it's too smart, it's too intelligent. So, brother, if you get some time, because they got serious evidence of what success is, because they be having multi-million-dollar homes and they be on welfare, living in multi-million-dollar homes.
Yeah.
And this is
Exactly.
one thing that I discovered dealing with the Amish. They don't have the calamities that we have.
No.
Something. So I'm trying to solve this so I don't have to suffer. See, this is what I'm saying. So I'm not necessarily pushing to the side what happened to you personally. If
No.
we
I
use
know.
wisdom,
Yes.
I'm yearning to see what can we do to prevent this, because I told you, even my own self, I used to get walking pneumonia every April. So
Yes.
if I truly have concern, I want to try to find a solution, not to necessarily say, I don't want to cry with you.
No. No.
But brother, I'm going to tell you something. When I was younger, it was a white husband and wife. Their child had a unique illness and they went bankrupt, and they did everything together to find the cure for their child. And their child had a cure for other children that had to come after them. We exist because everything else exists, even the movie The Fountain. Because
Yes, you
when
told
we
me
get the
about this one.
answer,
Yes.
it's
Hmm.
going to heal others, because this is the great story for us all. White, black, brown, all of us are in the furnace of affliction. The white blood cell don't need to protect for itself.
No.
The white blood cell protect for somebody who at a bar drinking alcohol at night.
Yeah.
Think about what I just said.
Oh, yeah.
The white blood cell is not being attacked by the bacteria.
No.
The bacteria is formed because someone is doing something at night. But the white blood cell still does its job.
Hmm.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
We exist because everybody else exists. So if I truly care about somebody, we have to find these answers that our generation has been yearning for many generations. When are we going to be free? Free to live and to enjoy this earth, and we don't have to die to get ours in heaven. So we can get some time, brother. Even be next month. That is something that I'm working on. Is to create a space for God serving women to dwell in, like the mikvah.
Hmm.
And what can we do actively that the spiritual forces will bypass us, put the lamb's blood on the door, and go somewhere else? Because that's how the calamities in the Bible, they start killing the children.
Children first.
Because
Firstborns.
yeah. So think about that, brother Michael. These Fridays and Saturdays, that means I'm going to more into like a prayer life. I may even start a prayer group, because I want to see the evidence. Because if these people are doing it and they're not seeing the same calamities as us, it's something that we need to rediscover, because they got the information supposedly from us.
Hmm.
So they start their mornings at sunset on the weekend.
Yes, they do. Yes, they
And
do.
why do we do not start our mornings at sunset? Because they got that from the book of Genesis, brother, how God created the heavens and the earth.
It
So
says
that's
the
how they
evening and the morning
right,
were the second day, the third day.
right.
That's
But,
correct. That's
but we
correct.
go out and we go out and do stuff. Okay, not to go on, bro, but you get, because when you said that, I know you know
Yes.
exactly what I'm talking about. So let's
Yes.
try to manifest something in our own individual life, that the unseen forces could build this hedge of protection over us and our household, which we deserve.
Indeed. Indeed. And let us close together. For the candle cannot complain against the harshness and the darkness.
Darkness
It instead
admits
admits itself and admits
it
to
to
itself
itself.
that it is
It is
everything
everything
that
it
it needed.
ever needed.
It is the
The
light,
light.
and
We
we
are.
are that light. And we will not blow this candle away from us Instead, we will take in this light as a testament of us being the light itself. And so we take it in and we show without a shadow of a doubt that we are not harmed. Multitudes of many blessings upon all who are here tonight. The blessings upon Brother Eli, and hopefully blessings be bestowed upon me and my family. Let there be room for us within this affliction to one day see freedom and joy as it was intended for those within the burning bush.
Brother Mike, as you wish blessings on me, I hope and pray to the great life and life, and blessings on your family, and blessings in the head of protection on you and your family on all levels and multiple levels. And I hope and pray as individuals who have families that we can do and discover whatever it takes to receive God's mercy on us while we try our best consistently to do what is right in this journey. So please protect this brother and his family with blessings and protection and healing and love and honor in all things that we deserve in truth.
I receive it. I receive it.